Hi there, and welcome to Out There, a Cryptid podcast. I'm Josh, and today we're heading down a lonely stretch of Wisconsin back road, where something might just be watching from the shadows. Half wolf, half man. Today, we are talking about the beast of Bray Road. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, it's CJ. I wanted to pop in here and tell you all that we now have a website. OutThereCryptids.com is now a central hub for everything out there. No longer do you have to go to our Instagram bio for the Discord or Patreon links. Simply go to OutThereCryptids.com and you'll find easy access to our Discord, Patreon, TikTok, Instagram, X, and even more. You can listen to your favorite episodes, give us direct feedback, or even order my ebook, Dear Editor. OutThereCryptids.com gives you quick and easy access to our Patreon, where we've started a new show, Out There After Dark, where you join me by the campfire and listen to scary stories from Reddit. Episodes of After Dark release bi-weekly and is available for all Weird Club tiers. Starting in November, we're also joining YouTube. Episodes will be posted daily, starting with Josh's very first episode all the way until it's caught up with the main show. Thank you guys for listening, and don't forget to check out OutThereCryptids.com. Josh, take it away.
We'll get into the beast of Bray Road right after this. This is one of the most requested cryptids we've ever had on the show. We actually touched on it briefly back in our episode on the Michigan Dogman, but this creature has so many sightings, so much documentation, and such a lasting impact on American cryptid lore that it really does deserve its own full episode. It's very possible that the Michigan Dogman and the Beast of Bray Road are one and the same, or maybe members of the same strange species, but either way, this creature holds the title of the most popular wolf-like cryptid in America. When people talk about the Beast of Bray Road, the story always leads back to Elkhorn, Wisconsin, which is a quiet rural town surrounded by rolling farmland, dense patches of woods, and long, isolated country roads that stretch for miles. Bray Road itself is the kind of place where the night feels thicker, where your headlights only carve out a narrow tunnel through the dark, and everything beyond that could be watching you from the tree line. It's the perfect environment for something to hide or hunt. Witnesses describe the creature as a towering, wolf-like beast, usually between 5 and 7 feet tall, covered in dark or gray fur, with long claws, a pronounced snout, and glowing eyes that catch the light just right in the dark. And unlike a normal wolf, this thing is often seen standing and moving upright like a man. To understand where the beast fits into the older stories, we turn to the people who lived here long before Elkhorn even existed. The Anishinaabe people tell of Ma'ingun, the wolf, who walked the world besides the first man and became a kind of brother. The Ho-Chunk tribe also have a wolf clan born at creation. The Menominee and Potawatomi tribes tell wolf stories too. These aren't horror tales of monstrous werewolves. They're relationships, responsibilities, and origin stories. So, while indigenous wolf lore gives us a deep cultural backdrop of wolf imagery in Wisconsin, there's no surviving local tribe legend that clearly is about the Beast of Bray Road. That modern monster appears in late 20th century eyewitness accounts and media, not in the recorded oral traditions of the tribes whose homelands include this area. The earliest story connected to this cryptid actually takes us all the way back to 1936, long before the modern wave of sightings put Elkhorn on the cryptid map. A night watchman named Mark Sheckelman was working the grounds of the St. Coletta School for Exceptional Children in Jefferson, Wisconsin, only a short drive from Bray Road. Over the course of 2 consecutive nights, Shackleman reported seeing a large, dark, wolf-like figure digging into a Native American burial mound on the property. He described it as more than 6 feet tall, standing upright on 2 legs, covered in fur, and reeking of a foul, rotten stench, like decaying meat left out in the heat. But the part that really unnerved him wasn't the smell or the size. It was the sound it made. Shackleman said the creature let out a growl that was half animal, half human, something between a deep guttural roar and a mangled attempt at speech. After those 2 encounters, he never saw it again, but the experience stayed with him for the rest of his life. For decades, there were no widely reported sightings, no local legends gaining traction, no newspaper stories hinting that something strange was stalking rural Wisconsin. If anything, the 1936 account became more of a whispered oddity, but that silence only made what happened next even more startling. Because, more than 50 years later, out on the quiet backroads near Elkhorn, the beast would return. And this time, it won't be a lone night watchman seeing something unbelievable. The next sighting, one that never really made headlines, came from 1972. A man named David, who claimed to be working as a DNR agent at the time, responded to a call that still haunts him. According to David, he was contacted by a woman who lived only a couple miles from the St. Coletta grounds, the same area where Shackleman had seen the creature decades earlier. The woman told him she had seen something moving around her farmyard late at night. Not a coyote, not a trespasser. Something ape-like, upright, and tall enough to make her lock every door in the house. David drove out to investigate but found nothing. No tracks, no damage, no sign of an animal that didn't belong. He chalked it up as a frightened misidentification, until 2 weeks later, when the woman called again, this time in full panic. According to her, the creature had returned, and this time it walked right up onto her front porch. She said it rattled her screen door hard enough to shake the frame, as if testing it. As she watched from inside, frozen with fear, it left behind a deep slash mark 7 feet off the ground on the siding next to the door. Whatever made that mark wasn't just tall, it was powerful. And it didn't stop there. After leaving the porch, the creature reportedly crossed the yard to her house shed. By the time it was gone, one of her horses had a 30-inch gash across its neck, a wound too large and too clean to be explained by barbed wire or a fall. The animal survived, but the story would stay buried for years. No official report, no newspaper article, just one terrified farmer and one DNR agent who quietly filed it away as something he couldn't explain. This sighting and the 1936 one hints that something may have been lurking in the rural areas around Elkhorn long before the beast became a national name, but probably the most famous sighting came over 10 years later, a sighting that sparked the legendary cryptid we know today. That night in 1989, Lori Andreezy had no idea she'd become part of an uncanny legend. Her headlights picked out something crouched by the roadside. At first, it looked like just a dark shape, but then pointed ears. Something wasn't human. When she glanced back, she realized what she was looking at. A hulking beast, fur dark and thick, its arms long, its massive claws clutching what looked like roadkill. But instead of fleeing, it rose and stared. Its glowing eyes locked onto her, and for a troubled moment, their gazes met. Some part of her said to keep driving, but another part said, quote, "This is not a mistake. End quote. When she drove away, it followed her with its eyes, not running, not hiding, just watching. For Lori, that moment wasn't a shadow in the woods or a trick of light. She later told investigators that she believed she had seen something that shouldn't exist. After Lori's encounter, she didn't run straight to the newspapers. Like a lot of people who see something impossible, her first reaction was embarrassment. She told friends about it only in passing, half joking, half terrified, until she realized that other people in the area had been seeing something too. And when a local reporter named Linda Godfrey started digging into strange animal reports around Elkhorn, Lori finally came forward. When Godfrey interviewed her in 1991 for The Week, Lori didn't hold back. She described the creature exactly as she remembered it. Tall, muscular, covered in dark fur, kneeling on the side of the road with its claws sunk into a piece of roadkill. She said its eyes glowed in her headlights, and that the thing watched her leave with an intelligence that didn't feel animal. Lori told the paper, quote, "It wasn't scared of me. It was aware." End quote. That article published on December 29th, 1991, and it changed everything. The Week was a small-town paper, but once the story hit the stands, people in Walworth County started talking. Suddenly, other witnesses were calling the newsroom saying they'd seen a similar creature. Godfrey later said she was shocked to find that the county's animal control officer actually had a file labeled, quote, "werewolf," end quote, sitting in his office drawer, full of reports from locals who didn't know each other, yet were describing the same thing. And once the newspaper ran the story, the fire spread. TV crews started showing up in Elkhorn. Chicago stations ran segments on the Wisconsin werewolf. Even tabloids got involved. The National Enquirer sent a team to stake out Bray Road. Within weeks, the Beast of Bray Road went from a quiet rural rumor to a full-blown national curiosity. Lori was shocked by the media attention. She never expected her late-night encounter to become the backbone of one of America's most famous modern cryptid legends. But, in a way, it was her honest description, calm, detailed, and consistent, that gave the entire phenomenon credibility. She wasn't chasing attention. She wasn't trying to sell a story. She was just the first person brave enough to say out loud what so many others had seen. The modern wave of beast sightings hit its peak in the early 1990s. One of the most unsettling reports came in late December of 1990, when a young girl named Heather and her friends were out sledding near her home as dusk began to fall. Heather's mom, Karen, still remembers the moment her daughter came bursting through the door, pale, shaking, absolutely terrified. Heather kept saying she had seen something that looked like a dog, until it stood up. According to Heather, she and several of her friends were finishing up their sledding for the day when they noticed a large, dog-like figure standing at the edge of the field. At first, they thought it was just a stray, but as they watched, the creature moved closer, and they realized something was off. Very off. It had silver fur with brown patches, a muzzle shaped more like a coyote's, and it watched them with an unnerving alertness. Like it wasn't just an animal wandering by, but something assessing them. The kids didn't run. They did what their instinct told them. They slowly backed away, keeping their eyes on the creature. They didn't want to turn their backs. That's when it happened. The creature suddenly stood upright on its hind legs and began chasing them. Heather said the thing sprinted towards them with shocking speed, closing half the distance between the cornfield and her house before abruptly stopping. It seemed to reconsider watching them flee before turning around and disappearing back into the field, as if it had changed its mind at the last second. This wasn't just one frightened kid making up a story. Heather's friend, Russell Jest, who who was there that day, later confirmed that everything she described was exactly what he saw too. When Karen heard the details, her stomach dropped, especially when she learned that the creature had gotten that close to her daughter. And as more sightings began popping up around Elkhorn in the months that followed, Heather's story suddenly didn't seem like a child's imagination. It seemed like the beast was back, and it wasn't afraid of getting close. And this wasn't the only terrifying sighting. The next one came not even a year later, and it happened on a night already steeped in superstition. October 31st, 1991, Halloween night. Doris Gibson was driving home late at night along Sittler Road, known today as Hospital Road, when something strange happened. As she cruised through the smoggy dark, she suddenly felt her car lift slightly on one side, like the tire wasn't fully touching the road. She assumed she'd struck a small animal and that it had gotten caught underneath, so she pulled over about 50 feet to check. She got out, walked around to the front of the car. Nothing. No animal, no damage. But as she walked toward the back of her blue Plymouth Sundance, she froze. Charging straight at her out of the darkness was a massive creature. Taller than she was, broad-shouldered, and covered in hair across its chest. She didn't wait to see more. Doris sprinted to her car, dove inside, and slammed the door shut just as it reached her. She floored the gas and sped away, heart pounding. She later said she couldn't remember the details of its gait. She didn't have the time to look, but she did remember the sound, the heavy, rhythmic thump of enormous feet hitting pavement, getting louder and closer as it ran behind her. She said the creature's chest heaved as it chased her, its breath ragged, animalistic, and way too close for comfort. But that wasn't the end. Sometime later, the exact date wasn't made public, Doris was driving again, this time with a friend. She just had picked up from a party. The friend suddenly pointed out the window and yelled that something was stalking the roadside. Doris didn't even look. She knew that road. She knew that feeling. She slammed her foot on the gas and got them out of there. When daylight returned, she inspected her car. On the rear trunk panel were several strange marks. Long, thin, almost claw-like scratches. When reporter Linda Godfrey later examined the vehicle, she confirmed the markings were there. They weren't deep enough to clearly identify, but they were odd, out of place, and impossible to explain. This encounter, violent, aggressive, and involving a credible local woman with physical markings on her vehicle, is one that finally pushed the Beast of Bray Road into the newspapers. It was Doris's story, along with Lori's and a handful of others, that convinced Linda Godfrey and Walworth County authorities that something genuinely strange was happening on those rural Wisconsin back roads. More on the Beast of Bray Road right after this. Once Doris came forward and Linda put her story in print, the floodgates opened. The Week ran a centerfold exposing multiple eyewitnesses, complete with Godfrey's own sketch of the beast. Suddenly, the small backroads of Elkhorn weren't just a local mystery. They were front-page material. People were terrified. Some stopped driving on Bray Road after dark. Others leaned into the legend. Werewolf area signs sprung up. T-shirts showed up. Even TV news teams came calling. But not everyone believed the stories. County officials argued many sightings were just misidentified wolves or coyotes. And while fear spread, so did curiosity. Over time, what started as a bizarre Halloween story became a full-blown American cryptid. And just when everyone thought, or at least hoped, the beast had faded back into the woods, the sighting surged again, this time in August of 1992. Tom and his friend Chris Maxwell had spent the evening at a wedding reception in Genesee Depot, and after the party wrapped, Tom offered to drive Chris back to where he was staying, Jellystone Campground, near Fort Atkinson. It was late, the highway was empty, and a thick, heavy fog had rolled in. Chris was behind the wheel when it happened. Out of nowhere, he heard a thud. The car jolted hard. Chris thought he'd clipped a mailbox or some kind of post hidden in the fog. He slowed, backed up, and that was when it became clear. There had been no mailbox at all. Something was moving in the fog. A shape, tall, broad, walking toward them. As it came close enough for the headlights to catch it, they saw it wasn't a person, and it wasn't any kind of animal they recognized. Chris had his window cracked open, and the first thing he registered was the smell, a thick, musky skunk-like stench rolling into the car. Then, the creature stepped out of the fog completely. It was big, covered in whitish-gray fur with dark streaks, black or near black, running through it like stripes. It walked upright, and each step deliberate and heavy. And then, as it approached the car, it did something neither of them expected. It reached out, a long, furry arm with claws, raked across the side of the car's door panel, leaving visible scratches in the metal. Tom and Chris didn't want to see what was coming next. Chris floored it, tires screaming on the wet pavement, and the creature disappeared back into the fog behind them. The next major sighting came in 1995, this time from a man named Steve, driving home late at night along Bray Road. Steve said he was rounding a familiar stretch when something large and dark stepped onto the road. Unlike previous fleeting glimpses, this creature was fully illuminated in its headlights for several 10 seconds. He described it as standing at least 7 feet tall, covered in dark, thick fur, with a distinctly wolf-like snout and muscular limbs. And then, before he could even react, it moved, with astonishing speed, crossing the road in a blur. This encounter was significant because it reinforced the beast's upright bipedal behavior, showing it wasn't just an oversized wolf. To many cryptid enthusiasts, Steve's sighting helped cement the Wolfman image that would become the archetype for the Beast of Bray Road. Around the same time, another series of sightings occurred near Elkhorn, this time involving a local couple living on a quiet rural property. Over multiple nights, they reported seeing a large, hairy figure lurking near their barn. On one particular occasion, the couple saw the creature standing silently near their horse corral, watching them with what they described as deliberate attention. It didn't attack or make a sound, but the encounter left them shaken. When they inspected the area afterward, they would find deep scratches on a fence post, evidence of the creature's presence and strength. These repeated sightings were significant for a few reasons. They suggested the beast was territorial, possibly stalking familiar areas repeatedly, and showed that it wasn't just a random fleeting phenomenon. It was deliberate, aware, and biding its time in the rural night. By the early 2000s, the Beast of Bray Road had already become a staple of Wisconsin folklore, but much of the lore was still confined to local reports, whispered stories, and a few scattered newspaper articles. That changed in 2002, when Linda Godfrey published The Beast of Bray Road, Tailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. Godfrey's book did something no newspaper story had done. It compiled decades of eyewitness accounts from the earliest 1936 sighting of Mark Shackleman to the dramatic encounters of the late 1980s and 1990s, including Lori, Doris Gibson, and Elkhorn farm sightings. She combined these first-hand interviews with investigative reporting and even sketches of the creature based on witness descriptions. The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Suddenly, the beast was no longer just a local curiosity. Godfrey's book sparked a nationwide fascination with the cryptid, drawing in monster hunters, paranormal enthusiasts, and tourists eager to experience the legend firsthand. Almost overnight, sightings surged. People from Wisconsin and neighboring states began reporting encounters more frequently. Many of the patterns established in early reports, like bipedal upright movement, glowing eyes, powerful claws, and a tendency to appear near roads and farm fields, were echoed again and again. Some of these new reports involved near-vehicular interactions, like the early Doris and Maxwell encounters, while others were more subtle, mysterious tracks, scratches on property, or fleeting glimpses of a shadowy figure. Godfrey later noted that the book also legitimized the accounts in a way that newspaper articles alone could not do. Witnesses felt more confident coming forward because the creature now had a documented history and a recognized name. The beast became not just a story people whispered about, but a full-fledged cryptid with its own mythology, complete with eyewitness consistency and tangible evidence like claw marks and vehicle scratches. The 2002 publication also helped establish the beast as a cultural icon of American cryptid lore. It inspired radio shows, magazine features, and eventually a small cult following of enthusiasts who would camp along Bray Road hoping to see the creature for themselves. And it set the stage for more sightings throughout the 2000s and into the present day, showing that even decades after the first reported encounter, the beast had not faded. It had grown stronger in the imagination of the public and in the eyes of anyone who dared to drive those foggy rural roads at night. More on the Beast of Bray Road right after this. After the release of this book, sightings boomed. So we are going to talk about only some of the sightings, but know that this is one of the most well-documented and widely cited cryptids we have ever covered. From roadside encounters to farmyard interactions, the reports poured in, each one adding another layer to the mystery of this beast. One of the first post-book sightings occurred in 2003 along Silver Fox Road near Elkhorn. A local couple was driving late at night when something large and upright suddenly stepped onto the road. The creature paused, watching them, its gray fur streaked with silver, and its eyes reflected their headlights with molten gold. One of the witnesses swore it stood at least 7 feet tall, and its strides were unnaturally long and fast, moving with a deliberate purpose rather than randomness. This encounter was significant because it reinforced the beast's bipedal, wolfman-like appearance, echoing the descriptions from the 1990s. Being one of the first sightings after Godfrey's book, it also suggested that awareness of this creature either emboldened it or encouraged witnesses to come forward. A couple of years later, in 2005, another dramatic encounter took place on a rural property near Bray Road. Rick and his family were leaving their barn late at night when Rick spotted a hairy, muscular figure moving swiftly toward the tree line. The next morning, his daughter reported seeing the same figure near the horse corral. While the creature did not attack, deep scratches on the fence were discovered, reminiscent of the 1996 Elkhorn Farm sighting. This encounter reinforced the idea that the beast was revisiting familiar areas repeatedly. It wasn't a random wanderer. It seemed to know the land, making it both elusive and eerily consistent in its movements. In 2008, 2 teenagers were driving home from a party along Highway 12 when they experienced a terrifying encounter. Out of the corner of their eyes, they noticed a figure standing upright on the side of the road, its eyes glowing in the headlights, fixed intently on their vehicle. The creature began moving toward them slowly, as if sizing them up, before suddenly darting off into the cornfields with incredible speed, disappearing almost instantly. One of the teens noted a putrid, musky odor, consistent with earlier reports. A few years later, in 2012, a small group of local boys walking home from school near Bray Road encountered the beast in broad daylight. At first, they thought they saw a dog at the edge of a cornfield, until it stood upright, revealing a 7-foot-tall, muscular wolf-like frame. Terrified, the boys ran home as the creature began moving toward them before disappearing back into the field. Their parents confirmed the boys' fear was genuine. This encounter was significant because it demonstrated that sightings could occur in daylight now and in near-populated areas, and that children were not immune to the encounters with this beast. It also reinforced the classic image, upright, wolf-like, and terrifyingly fast. In 2015, a truck driver driving through the Bray Road area around 2 a.m. had an encounter that would leave him shaken for years. As he passed a lonely back road shrouded in fog, he noticed 2 glowing yellow eyes moving across the road ahead. At first, he thought it might be an animal, but as he slowed, the figure rose upright, revealing that unmistakable silhouette of a large bipedal creature. For several tense seconds, the beast sprinted along his truck, keeping pace with the vehicle before disappearing into the tree line. Even nearly a century after the first sightings in 1936, the creature maintained the same terrifying presence that had haunted the back roads of Elkhorn for generations. As we moved into the late 2010s, we enter an era when smartphones were everywhere and cameras were always at the ready, giving witnesses the chance to document this creature like never before, and adding a whole new layer to its enduring legend. In February of 2018, cryptid researchers called Ghost Research Society documented a sighting of a large, hairy, upright creature in Spring Prairie, Walworth County. They described it as moving deliberately across a field, standing fully bipedal and clearly visible despite the late winter dimness. About 2 years later, in January 2020, Danny Morgan reported an encounter that quickly sparked debate among cryptid enthusiasts. While traveling along Weeks Road, not far from Bray Road, he claimed to have captured a photo of a bipedal wolf-like creature. According to Morgan, the creature stood upright like a human, and he noted that the motion of its arms and legs were strikingly human-like, almost as if it were walking deliberately rather than running on all fours. The photograph itself became a point of controversy. Some researchers and enthusiasts accepted it as compelling evidence, while skeptics argued that the proportions looked off, suggesting a misidentification or even a hoax. Regardless of its authenticity, this sighting is significant because it illustrates how the era of smartphones and cameras has changed cryptid reporting. Even in modern times, the Beast of Bray Road continues to appear, and each new sighting fuels the ongoing debate. Is it a real creature, or are we seeing shadows, tricks of light, and imaginations at work? Then, only 6 months later, in July 2020, Ron Rice, a delivery driver transporting fertilizer in Lyons, Wisconsin, reported a chilling encounter. He claimed to have seen a 7-foot-tall, coarse-haired creature standing at the edge of the tree line. According to his account, the creature picked something off the ground before quickly vanishing into the woods, almost as if it had been aware of his presence the entire time. This sighting is significant because it shows that even in very recent years, the creature continues to appear. Despite decades of reports and widespread attention, the creature remains elusive yet bold enough to be seen by people working late at night. In August of 2021, the same team from the 2018 investigation returned to the Bray Road area for another field study. During their expedition, they claimed to have captured thermal tablet footage of something standing upright at the edge of a cornfield. a classic hallmark of the beast. Their report also documented other unusual activity, eerie howling sounds, large unexplained footprints, and what they described as animal mutilations, including roadkill with parts missing on the Hampel farm. While the investigators admitted they couldn't fully validate all of the evidence, their work shows how cryptid researchers are still actively pursuing leads and how the beast remains a serious subject of paranormal and cryptozoological interest. In 2023, farmer Lee Hampel, a retired high school teacher who moved from Illinois to Elkhorn, reported a series of bizarre and unsettling phenomenon on his property near Bray Road. Over multiple encounters, he observed orbs, bright lights, and unexplained mist, and even described, quote, a creature with large orange eyes that jumped 15 feet into the air, end quote. Hampel also recounted strange activity involving roadkill animals. He had found a raccoon and placed it in a hole on his property line, only to discover it had been cut open and moved a short distance. Later, a deer he placed on the property vanished mysteriously, with camera footage suggesting it was taken by what appeared to be a moving mist. He also found footprints with 7 pads on the soles, unlike any typical canine track. This combination of physical evidence, eyewitness testimony, and paranormal phenomena makes Hampel's account one of the most compelling modern encounters with the beast. Far from a single sighting, it represents a multi-generational investigation and highlights the ongoing fascination and enduring mystery of the creature in southeast Wisconsin. And that 2023 farm encounter with Lee Hampel represents the last major reported sighting of the Beast of Bray Road to date. More on the Beast of Bray Road right after this. The legacy of the Beast of Bray Road stretches far beyond eyewitness accounts, spilling into film, television, and local culture. In 2005, a direct-to-video horror movie titled The Beast of Bray Road was released by the Asylum. The film fictionalizes the cryptid legend, turning the beast into a werewolf-like monster terrorizing Woolworth County, bringing the story to a wider audience. Over a decade later, in 2018, Seth Breedlove's Small Town Monsters released a documentary called The Bray Road Beast, narrated by Lyle Blackburn. The film combines interviews, eyewitness stories, and reenactments to explore the cryptid's history in depth. It's also available on streaming platforms like Amazon Prime, allowing both fans and newcomers to engage with the legend. The beast has also been featured in public television. PBS's Flyover Culture aired an episode titled The Beast of Bray Road and Embracing the Strange, which explored how Elkhorn, known for its Christmas card aesthetic, has embraced the cryptid as part of its local lore and tourism. On paranormal and cryptid-focused TV, the beast has appeared on multiple shows: In Search of Monsters on Travel Channel, Haunted Highway Season 2 Episode 3, and, according to Wikipedia, other series such as Legend Hunter, America's Urban Legends, Hexmen Arcane, Slammerang, and even a favorite of ours, Expedition X. In Elkhorn and surrounding areas, the cryptid is more than a story. It's part of the community's identity. Paranormal investigations continue, and the legend draws attention from tourists, monster hunters, and cryptid enthusiasts alike, making it a notable feature of local culture. Even as recently as March 2025, the beast inspired a new horror comedy film, produced, written, and directed by locals in Elkhorn. This shows that the cryptid isn't just a spooky footnote in folklore. It remains alive in pop culture, particularly in the town where the legend first emerged. So, what is the Beast of Bray Road? After decades of sightings, encounters, and investigations, the answer remains elusive. But there are several theories, each with its own supporting evidence. A more mundane explanation points to bears, particularly those suffering from mange, which can create a hairless, hunched, or wolf-like appearance. Many sightings describe large hulking creatures with fur in patches or unusual coloration, which could match a bear suffering from a skin condition. However, longtime Elkhorn residents have argued that bears are extremely rare this far south, and a creature of this size and frequency would likely have been widely reported by now. Still, the size and shape described in many sightings could plausibly match a bear in unusual circumstances, making this theory at least partially viable. Some suggest that the beast is the result of hoaxers, pranksters, or just misidentifications. The surge of sightings following Linda Godfrey's 2002 book, along with the documented Halloween and Rule Road encounters, could point to a psychological or cultural phenomenon where the legend itself encourages people to see something unusual in the dark. Reports of glowing eyes, unusual footprints, and strange smells could be misinterpretations of ordinary animals, shadows, or even vehicles, especially in rural areas at night. Now, of course, there's the idea that this really is some sort of monster or cryptid. Some believe it's a werewolf, a classic explanation for a creature that walks upright, has wolf-like features, and sometimes appears with glowing eyes. Proponents of this theory point to eyewitness reports describing the beast's bipedal stance, sharp claws, and eerie vocalizations, like the 1936 Night Watchman encounter, where the creature growled in a half-human, half-animal voice. The creature's ability to move quickly and with purpose across fields and roads also align with the traditional werewolf lore of a highly intelligent, predatory animal. There is also the suggestion that the beast could be a skinwalker, drawn from Navajo legend. Skinwalkers are said to be shapeshifters, capable of taking on animal forms and exhibiting unnatural abilities. Proponents of this theory point to reports of sudden appearances, glowing eyes, and the ability to seemingly vanish or move inhumanly fast. But it is hard to believe that a skinwalker, typically reported in the Southwest, would be this far north. Others suggest it could be a form of Bigfoot, or an unknown species of large bipedal primate. In one of the earliest reports, the creature was described as ape-like, and a lot of these reported sightings highlight the inquisitiveness of the creature, which is something Bigfoot is often described as well. And then there's the final theory. Maybe this really is some type of new cryptid, a cryptid that fits in the half-wolf, half-man category. This theory is supported by multiple reports noting the beast's human-like arms and gait, such as the 2020 photograph by Danny Morgan, which showed a wolf-like figure moving upright with distinctly human-like limb motion. However, others have pointed out that this photo looks more similar to a taxidermied gray wolf rather than the infamous beast. The reality is, no single theory perfectly explains all sightings. From 1936 through 2023, the beast has displayed a combination of traits that could point to the mythical, the undiscovered, or the misidentified. Whether it's a cryptid still roaming the fields of southwest Wisconsin, a case of mistaken identity, or some mixture of natural and human factors, the Beast of Bray Road continues to captivate imaginations, spark debate, and inspire stories, making it one of America's most enduring and mysterious cryptids. When I look at all sightings together, I keep coming back to one thing: black bears with a mange. If you've ever looked up photos of a bear with advanced mange, and I mean really looked, it's honestly terrifying. The fur loss, the gaunt limbs, the long snout, the way the skin hangs. It looks almost exactly like what many Bray Road witnesses describe: a tall, upright dog-like creature with a diseased or unnatural appearance. But here's the problem with that theory. The timeline makes it hard to swallow. Sightings of the Beast of Bray Road stretch from 1936 all the way to 2023. A single bear with mange couldn't survive even a fraction of that time. Mange is debilitating, often fatal, and even a healthy black bear only lives around 20 years. So, if the mange bear explanation is true, we have to assume multiple bears across multiple decades, all suffering from the same condition and all being seen in roughly the same region, would explain this cryptid. And while that's certainly possible, at a certain point, it becomes just as plausible that people are seeing something else entirely. Whether that's an undocumented creature or a mix of other explanations. So, where does that leave me? Honestly, I don't know. I don't think there's a single answer that nearly wraps this mystery up. I think the Bray Road sightings are likely a combination of misidentified animals. I think some are even possible Bigfoot encounters, with a handful of hoaxes or pranks splashed in there. And maybe that's why the Beast of Bray Road has stuck around for so long. It sits in that perfect space where the normal and the paranormal overlap. Just enough mystery to keep us guessing, and just enough evidence to keep it from being dismissed. So, what do you think? Is the Beast of Bray Road really out there? Be sure to follow us on Instagram @OutThereCryptids for episode posts, updates, and more. Join our community on Discord, where we dive even deeper into the mysteries we explore here on the podcast. The link can be found on our Instagram. And if you're loving the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. As a patron, you'll get exclusive perks like bonus episodes, early access, and even surprises. See you next week.